like we were talking about today, like it's an idea that's really been in my mind, like Peter, the changes I've had over the last couple of years of my old school hard money Austrian economics point of view to it's sort of like a different. It's not capitalism. It's not communism. It's like ultra capitalism mixed with ultra communism. It's like
Communism and
how
socialism. Communism is different. No? Or maybe not.
more like communism, because socialism is not exactly an ideology. It's a
Mhm.
method of redistributing wealth.
Right.
Communism has this idea of that it's post capitalism, right? Communism is, if you read Marx, it's that communism it comes is capitalism part two. After you have developed technology and productivity a certain way, then now you redistribute it. This is what China has understood, that one of the failures that the previous uh, communist regimes had is that they went to communism too soon. I
Mm.
don't know if you know this. Like the Chinese realized, oh, we need some period of time, which is why for the last 15 years they've been building up their capitalism in order or to a certain extent capitalism in order to generate innovation and an industry. And now they're like, okay, great. Now let's close down and let's go completely communism on our people. Like they're trying to do what Marx is talking about. But that's I think that's doomed to failure because you need the dynamics of the incentive system of capitalism, right? But you sort of need the communism to offset the cronyism, the corruption that occurs in a capitalist system. But you don't want to switch like what's been going on in the United States, where they switch from Democrat to Republican in their leadership every 4 years or every 8 years. What happens there is that it's a three-step forward, three steps back sort of thing. And so you have this vacillating thing where you can't make plans 20 years from now, right? This idea now that Biden wants to do tax people who have more than $1 million or whatever. It's sort of like, okay, wait, so I just built up this money over this period of time, and now I got to give half of it away to the government. It's like, why? What incentive does someone have now or can have now to do that? They'd be like, no, I want to be on the receiving end of that distribution, right? Why would they
Mhm.
ever want to create the productivity? But then if more people do that, eventually there's not enough to go around and then capitalism needs to come back again. So you don't want this back and forth system. What you want is this overlay where you have a layer of capitalism with a layer of socialism on top of it, that social or that communism churns the is the mechanism that redistributes wealth, but in a way that encourages people to be innovative, right? As opposed to there's no point in me trying because everyone else
Yeah,
is
because
doing
one
it.
of the, as I understand it, one of the failings of whether it's capitalism or communism is the corruption that happens, right? And so, in a capitalist system, in a free market system, money is flowing. Money is always flowing to where it's needed according to the values. But in crony capitalism, the money gets stagnant. You get these pools of stagnant wealth. Of money's not flowing. It's going through a centralized system of government that's being redistributed, not in the way that reflects the actual values of the people, but in a way that reflects the desires of the politician and the people who lobby them. And then in communism, you have the same thing that happens. You start out with this good spirit of sharing the wealth and helping people, but then the people who are in charge of giving out the wealth, they themselves get corrupted by their position, by power, and then everything becomes funny money again. But when we talk about tokenization and this new way, this new technologies, this new way for us to send our money, for us to demonstrate our value, is a way that is less corruptible because it's decentralized. So if you have a decentralized capitalistic system and a decentralized communist system, like the real key here is decentralization that allows money to flow so you can correct imbalances that might occur and you can bypass systems that might be corrupt.
Yeah, so it's like the realization I had is that I had always said that America had turned into a lot of the West had turned into a service based economy. That America used to produce the best things in the world. I mean, especially technology wise, used to produce the best things in the world, and then and that's where a lot of their wealth came from. And so, if you wanted a good TV, you wanted a good car, you bought America. And then because of monetary policy, jobs got exported to the lowest bidder in third world countries, and then those became the baskets of productivity. And so America turned into the service-based economy, where what was it like 75% of jobs are in the service industry. They're not producing anything. And I thought to
Mhm.
myself, well, this will collapse under its own weight because you need a civilization that produces in order to have any sort of wealth in that civilization. But then the reason I thought that is that I conflated the idea of producing a physical good as the only means of producing productivity. And I thought the customer service agent or the YouTuber or whatever it is that are just providing ephemeral services, that they weren't actually generating any productivity. Well, now I'm not sure I think that anymore. I think what was going on is that we're having a type of productivity that was not being quantified, right? The help that people were providing other people and the services that people were providing other people at best was monetizable through advertising, right?
Mhm.
People had to make ad deals in order to make their in a sense non-productive endeavor now profitable. Then you got stuff like Patreon, right? Where there was less of this advertising and more of the direct connection between the consumer of the information and entertainment with the actual producer of it. And then a weird thing happened. You had a development of expertise. There are people who are able to provide more information about how resources can be allocated. You had cosplayers who were making better costumes and understanding how to use their materials in order to make better things. You had software that was being developed in a way that wasn't being developed before. You had this idea you might have heard of like drop shipping, right? Where people act as middlemen and they instead of them buying things and storing it inside of a warehouse to then sell to other people locally, what they do is that their job is to advertise this product and you buy from them and an order is placed in China, which then delivers that product to the client. So I was like, oh, who needs that middleman? Well, the consumer needed them because they weren't going to the Chinese website in order to get this information, right? They needed that mechanism. That person was providing an actual service, and that person over there producing the good in China is actually producing something. They would not have been able to produce this otherwise. And then it sort of like hit me, oh my God, I've literally had the division of countries in my mind as a real thing. Like, it's not a real thing. It's not that America has no productivity and other places that has a productivity. It's one world
So
where
globalization is what you're
it's
talking about?
well, it's interconnectedness. Globalization is the effect of one culture being exported into another, but it's more that we were connected. And so, of course, the product doesn't have to come from Indiana and go to the person in North Carolina. It can come from China. Why not? Like the division between countries became less important because it was the web that created this layer that allowed things something far away to feel like it's closer by. And once you
Mhm.
do that, then you go, well, you have to measure the productivity of the planet. And when you measure the productivity of the planet versus the money supply, then you realize there is no imbalance. It looks like an imbalance if you only measure it in the United States or any given country, but it's not an imbalance if you consider all the productivity that's generated by the planet. Like we don't we're not counting in our GDP apps, the Excel spreadsheet that allow people to do calculations and macros and calculations faster than they could on a calculator or an abacus or whatever the hell they were using. We're not counting that within GDP. The information that someone's providing, the education information that someone's providing as a 10-minute thing in a 1 hour YouTube video, that is the equivalent information that someone might have had to sit in a class for 6 months in a college in order to understand. Like, we're not counting that. So there's actually far more productivity on this planet now than we ever had before, and in that sense, we haven't monetized nearly enough of the value that we're creating. So this idea that we're printing too much money I go on to myself, hey, wait a second. I don't think we are. In fact, I think we have a lack of money in the same way that the gold standard in some ways held back productivity because we didn't have that divisibility of it. We couldn't divide it enough. I don't want to go to all the details as to why I've come to that conclusion, but uh, because when gold coins were first created, there was a problem. You could have a tiny gold coin, gold coin that was worth 6 months' wages, and so you couldn't transact with it. And it was so
shaving
dangerous.
off
Literally, it would
shaving
be
off
the size.
gold.
Well, it would be the size of the half of your fingernail, like, and it would be ding, and you're like, that was enough money to feed a family for 2 months. And so you had this divisibility problem.
But
So they
did
had
they
to,
use copper? Didn't they use bronze and silver and other
yeah,
metals?
that's where more denominations came. So we've always had in the monetary sphere this issue of divisibility. We never had anything that could be infinitely divisible. Your seashells, at some point, you're not getting any tinier. And so now in the digital age, we finally have something that's infinitely divisible.
And
There's no
not just
end to the
divisible. Trust is the other aspect there. It has to be divisible and verifiable.
exactly because of the blockchain. And so now we're going to be able to tag value onto productive means or productive endeavors that we couldn't have before. We
All
just
right.
couldn't have before.
I love that. So when it comes to side hustles, what it sounds like you're saying is that it might very well become easier to get paid for your side hustle.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, we can very clearly see a situation where it's going to be weird if someone had one job. It's like you're just doing this one thing, you're all the time. You're not doing anything else. Like it'll be strange. It'll be like when we
But what
thought
if
of
that one job? What if that one job is the thing that you really like to do? Like I can imagine people have one job.
but it won't be an expression of all their interests. It's like if someone said all I had is one interest. I'm not saying it
I
has to be
see.
all
Because
consuming.
because it'll be so easy to monetize things,
Right.
it'll be strange to not do it. You might even be able to monetize things just within your own personal social network. Like families themselves might have tokens. Someone in the family is doing well. You're like, hey, you're gonna buy Tom's token. All the cousins and everybody buy Tom's token because Tom is doing well, and so amongst your friends, you'll be like, hey, it's whoever is the most productive in here is adding to our social circle, is adding value to us. So you might be tokenizing that. So going out for at a party is still a money making opportunity because
That's
what
exactly
this
right.
person might be entertaining at this party. This person, oh, we really want Jacob to come to this party because when Jacob comes to the party is great. Well, buy his token, everybody. Now people will come to the party.
Yeah, and your participation in different things will be automatically monetizable. Or you can imagine it could be automatically monetizable. That means the music you're listening to, the books that you read, the forums that you answer questions on, you'll be right now. It's sort of like this labor of love that you're doing. But imagine that you do that. Someone upvotes it because they think it's valuable, and now you get a part of the profits of that system. Well, it's going to be ridiculous not to participate in all the things that you're interested in because you might have 10, 20, 100 minor income streams that pay for everything that you're doing. So the idea that if you meet someone and they only do one thing, and you'd be like, that is the weirdest thing in the world. Like it's going to be synonymous with being poor. It's going to be like, what are you
Do you
talking
think
about?
people are going to get paid for things like, so Andrew Yang ran for president in 2020. He talked about two things that I'll mention. One, that GDP wasn't an accurate reflection, that we're not calculating it properly, that they've messed around with those numbers. So to get an accurate reading, because you're not actually calculating the true productivity of the country. You're excluding things. And one of the things he talked about was excluding rearing of children. Let's say mothers who are rearing children. It's like, oh, if the woman is working at a company, then she's valuable to society. But if she's staying at home, then her productivity
That's
isn't
exactly
properly
right.
measured.
That's
So
exactly right.
do you think that, like, To be a mother or father will also be tokenized in some way, like
100%.
you're contributing to the welfare of the country or the world.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying we flip a switch and that's what's happening tomorrow. What I'm saying is that it's going to happen sooner than we think. Like,
Mm.
certainly we have to expect that it's going to happen within our lifetimes. And
Mhm.
so you can't be thinking to yourself, only when it's monetizable will I get into the habit of exploring side things and being part of communities and having a side hustle. You have to think about that now, so that you're not the 65-year-old who needs to be retrained on a programming job. You're like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Like, you don't want that to be the case, because it'll come way faster than people think. The COVID crisis has shown us that how many people had to suddenly learn media.
Yeah, that's right.
You and I have talked about this, about the TikTok platform. People go, "Oh, you're wasting your time on TikTok." Have you tried to create a TikTok? Have you tried to actually create something that
It's not
people want to
easy.
change? I'm not saying putting something on that has 2 views. I'm talking about creating something that, oh yeah, 50,000 people enjoy. Do you know the difficulty in doing that? You have any idea? It's the same level of difficulty that people had when TVs first came. How do we do something that's interesting on this platform? Don't mistake that for frivolousness. It takes a great amount of effort, timing, understanding of human behavior in order to be able to do that. And you can't tell me that that
Yeah.
skill is not valuable, because people in school, when I started marketing school, they're like, okay, create this commercial in order to promote this product. Well, that's what they're doing.
For
So
fun.
it's the
Yeah.
same for fun. And
Yeah.
so don't tell me it's not worthwhile. And so this is what I mean by that, the productivity is not being measured. Like, people are not measuring the productivity of TikTok. People are not measuring adding the clothes that home what do you call them, seamstress are selling on Etsy. They're not counting that within the productivity of the nation. And so there's way more out there, far more, and you want to be doing that. You need to, and the reason I call it, we go with side hustle, is that side hustle is this idea that you're generating an income stream from outside your main job. That's the whole idea of side hustle. And so I really want you to have it in the framework of, how do I make $1 doing this thing that I love? Like, that's the idea, right? The whole idea of value, monetizable value, plus something that you love. How can I do that? And having that in your mind, you'll eventually scan, and find something that's like, hey, this is calling my attention because I love it. Let me see if there's a way for me to actually turn that into something that's a valuable, provides income stream for me. That, Peter, doing that it's incredibly difficult, and then when you find it, unbelievably satisfying.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. It really helps us grow, helps other people find us, and hit that little bell so that you know when we go live or when we upload a video. We're doing it very often. Go over right now. You're going to see there's a ton of content for you to peruse. Jumpstart is a series. We call it a digital salon with Tom Hartman, marketer and programmer, and Peter, just some dude, entrepreneur and comedian and motivational speaker here. And we want to give you edifying conversations, right? Instead of sitting down in a boring class where you're just going to be listening to lectures, this is an opportunity for you to listen to a conversation that will improve your life, that will help you to jumpstart things, whether it's in business or your personal experience, and that is
make money.
organic.
That's
And you can make some money.
Yeah.
And interact with us. We love your interactions. We read all your comments. Anything that's appropriate, we'll put it up on the screen, of course. And if you have any comments or questions, please message us. If you want to support what we're doing, head over to patreon.com/happyforachange. For as little as $5 a month, you can support us. At $5, you'll even get access to our Telegram group, where we have text chat and voice group chats. So if you want to be a part of that process, you want to ask us questions, if you want us in your pocket to stay motivated, get information, ask any question that you want, right? You're trying to what should I make a website? How should I do? I'm a social media influencer. How can I get followers? Whatever it is that comes to mind. How do I stay motivated? How do I get off my butt and get stuff done? You can put us in your pocket with our Telegram group. It's the Jumpstart Live.